Hey there, Virgo. This is your Christmas ascendant forecast for the week ahead, taking you from Monday the 22nd right the way through to Sunday the 28th of December 2025. There's not so much happening this week. Like last week was a huge energetic shift. This week, we're taking things a lot more slowly, a lot more softly. There are a couple of planetary aspects coming up. For instance, we've got a square between Venus and Neptune that's coming up. We've also got a trine between Mercury and Chiron that seems very important. And also Venus is going into Capricorn. But yeah, there's not so much that really grabs my attention. I think this is a week where we can relax into the holidays, however you spend them, if you spend them at all. And I think there's some personal learning and some like late in the year shifts that are still ongoing. However, I really get this sense that we are summing things up in this last week. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. As ever, I'm just going to bring up my charts and also say a huge thank you to the people that support my channel in all the various ways that you do. Thank you so much. So I've got two charts here. The first one is starting on Monday the 22nd of December at midnight. This is based in a London time zone because I actually sit in the London time zone. I'm coming to you from Portugal, and Portugal and London, they're in the mid time zone. They're in the universal time, so it's the midpoint for everybody. So this is midnight as we come into Monday the 22nd. You'll see the moon is going to move over to Aries and end this week in a conjunction with Chiron, right at the end of Sunday the 28th of December. So the moon is going from Capricorn to Aries. You'll also notice that Venus is coming into Capricorn, and also that both Mars and the Sun are moving further into Capricorn as we go through this week. You'll also notice that last week we had a whole heap of very exact squares that were playing out. As we're going through this week, these squares are starting to ease right off. And it's just the Mercury squares that are still coming in, but not exact in this week. So anyway, let's go to the beginning. Now, this is using a whole sign Western tropical methodology or model. And what that means is I'm using one house to represent one sign of the zodiac. Now, if when you look at your birth chart, you recognize that you've got the symbol for Virgo and also the symbol for Libra in your first house, then what this means is it's helpful for you to also listen to the Libra forecast because it's going to have some first house resonance with you. So don't forget to do that if that's of interest. So as we are going into this week, the moon is just in the tail end of Capricorn. And as the moon is traveling through and into the sign of Aquarius, just before the moon is going to go into a trine with Uranus, which is really spontaneous. It's really awakening. It's really quite exciting. We feel kind of laissez-faire. You know, we're not so strict. We're not so worried about timekeeping. We're kind of like easy and free and also sort of resonating with a new kind of energy. Now, as the moon actually goes into the sign of Aquarius, the moon's also going to get closer and closer to Pluto. And so it's interesting, there's this strong dynamic of freedom and independence whilst also wondering about your sense of power and control. So I do think actually as we're coming into this holiday season, there might be quite a lot that you need to get done. And you've got this sort of real sort of desire for things to be high vibe, high vibrational, like really super conscious. And at the same time, you're also wanting to get things done and make sure things work. So it's an interesting one. It's likely to bring out some very creative solutions. You might find things are a bit eccentric around your home, but it's all going to be okay. Don't worry. And then, you know, the moon is going to be going through the sign of Aquarius up until Christmas Day, actually. So on Wednesday, the 24th, then we've got a couple of Venus energies that are coming in that I think are really important to discuss. The first one is Venus coming into a square with Neptune. So if you remember last week, she had just come into this square with Saturn, and she's been moving into this square with Neptune. In the square with Saturn, Venus has been challenged by a feeling of disconnect. and maybe feeling a little bit cut off from people because of authoritative people, or maybe actually just kind of doubting herself, so that sense of love and joy that you might want to feel at home, which is where she is in the fourth house, might have been stifled a little bit because there are bossy people around that have kind of, like, she stepped out of her mojo a little bit. But as Venus comes into this square with Neptune, both Venus and Neptune are harmonics of love. Venus is the terrestrial, earthly love. Neptune is the celestial love, possibly etheric love as well. And so when they're in this square, neither of them are very well represented. And I think it's really showing up as this kind of longing for connection, but not knowing how to do it, especially in this fourth house and the seventh house. The fourth house is about home and family. The seventh house is about our partner. So, you might be wanting your partner to be really demonstrating in an earthly sense their love, and maybe you want to demonstrate your love in an earthly way. And yet it just feels like your partner is up in the clouds and, is maybe a romantic idiot. Or I don't mean to call romantic people idiots, but do you know what I mean? You might feel, I'm really based, they're really idealistic, I'm really practical, but they're really sort of illusionary and dreamy. And so it feels like there's this disconnect, and you might feel a little bit disappointed. Venus and Neptune squares can be quite disappointing because it feels like there's no real way to experience love that is pure and perfect. It feels like it's escaping from you. And it's really there, I think, to dissolve all those expectations. So those expectations that you might have, that love is, it always feels like this, and love is always expressed like that, those rose-colored glasses that you might wear, or it's like a rose-colored fog, in fact, about how you might see love. All of that is dissolving, and it can be quite unnerving. There might be a nostalgia to a time when A, you didn't ask that question, is this true love or not? B, you didn't care. C, you felt safe enough not to have even asked that question. But we're not in that time at the moment. And so this square just feels a little bit like, oh, this is really difficult. Then what's going on soon after is that Venus is stepping into the sign of Capricorn, where all of a sudden she becomes very sober and grown up and slightly boundaried in her heart. She's thinking, okay, well, if I can't answer that question, then the best thing I can do right now is be practical and provide physical comfort for people, be loving and respectful of people. And so this kind of sober, grown-up love comes forwards. And so, Wednesday, the 24th, just before Christmas Day, I think is a real possibly a confusing day, because you don't quite know how to love people in the best way. Moreover, how do you show yourself how important you are and how much you love you? So it's an interesting way of being as we're coming into Christmas. So you might find, that you have these high expectations of what having your family or friends around might represent, but also this fear of being disappointed, like, oh, who cares? Nobody's going to show up, or nobody's going to go to the efforts I go to. So watch out for those energies as they come in, and just maybe focus on the practical. You'll be much happier. Now, as Christmas Day approaches, we've got the moon going into the seventh house. So your energies are absolutely on the partners, on the people around you, and you might find that your partner is thawing quite a bit and seems a little bit more switched on to your emotions. So it's not just about their needs. I think they'll be very empathic about your needs too, which could be quite helpful. You might just choose to kind of let your guard down a little bit and join them. Allow yourself to be led by their emotionalism. Allow yourself just to connect, even if you might be disappointed. To me, this feels very unguarded, and I think there's some joy in that unguardedness. But by the time Friday the 26th comes along, the moon has by this point got into a conjunction with Neptune and also Saturn, and you might just be reminded of these moments where you think, oh, things aren't as resolved as I thought. I think it's really important just to recognize you are, and not just you, but we are all going through this time of readjustment. And, moon energies, as they connect with planets, they come in, feels very real, feels very important and very potent. And then the moon moves away quite quickly. So, if this feels a little bit challenging, just recognize that this is passing. By tomorrow, you're going to feel very, very different. In fact, as you come into Saturday, the 27th, the moon is coming into the sign of Aries. And when that happens, I think you're going to be a lot more straight talking. You're not going to want to play around too much with meaning and getting lost in things. You're going to want to call a spade and be a lot more direct. I think that's going to be helpful. And then as we're coming up to the 28th, there is almost like a miraculous energy coming, and that's Mercury in an exact trine with Chiron. Now, it's not miraculous for no investment, I would say. The moon coming into a conjunction with Chiron at the same time is, to me, suggesting that for this miraculous healing or this gentle breakthrough that's possible, you have to open up a little bit and be prepared to show your hand of cards. If you're keeping everything very secretive and keeping your cards close to your chest, I don't think you'll get such a great breakthrough. But Mercury in this beautiful trine with Chiron is really helping people have a healing conversation to completely reset the tone. It's a time of gentle breakthroughs, like I just shared. Old wounds are coming up, but being transmuted into wisdom. There's a feeling of beautiful insights, but mostly, I think, a sense of release and relief. So I actually think this week is gently working on those last bits that are holding you in resistance from meeting with people and allowing that beautiful connection. And, that sense of, I don't want to be disappointed. I want to protect myself. I think it's that protection from disappointment that is stopping these beautiful heart encounters from really truly flourishing. So I wonder what will happen if you allow yourself to completely own up to how you're being and how you're feeling, and to see what happens. To me, that might be the very best Christmas gift. So there you go. That's your Christmas forecast. I hope this has been helpful. And, if you like the way I talk about astrology and you want to learn astrology yourself, I'm starting formal lessons. I've got a whole curriculum starting on the 6th of January. Every week, there's going to be 2 sessions a week. And lots of other support materials. That's in my community that I'm running that from. If you want to have access to my forecasts, I do daily forecasts, Monday to Friday, where I'm looking at the moon's positions and also some key asteroids. I've also got love and connection forecasts and also career, money and ambition forecasts for all 12 signs. All of this is now free on my community space, and you can find that at www.skool.com/feelgoodastrology. If you are somebody who's a bit more tech savvy than me, you could also just scan this QR code that's above my head. But however you decide to connect with me, there's multiple ways, but I look forward to seeing you in the community. Have a beautiful week ahead. Have a lovely Christmas with the people that matter the most, and sending you lots and lots of love. I'll connect in again with you real soon. Bye for now.